Shin splints are super annoying and can sometimes be extremely difficult to get rid of. In this video, we're going to identify what are shin splints and how can you go about best treating them. First things first, you want to identify a couple of red flags that might be present if you're having pain in your shin from either just starting a running program, a walking program. If you had any sudden change in activity levels, number one thing you want to rule out is a stress fracture. You could really get a stress fracture or a bone stress injury at any part in the shin. The red flags to look for are focal pinpoint pain.
If you have an actual stress fracture in your shin, usually the pain won't cover an area any more than 5 centimeters in length.
Another thing that's classic with bone injuries is nighttime aching. If you have nighttime aching in the shin, and even sometimes into the next day after you do go for a long run or walk, that can be a sign that you've got some bony involvement and it's not just a soft tissue injury. Today I want to talk specifically about symptoms that runners can get on the front outer part of their shin.
Before getting into treatment recommendations for this, let's define what a shin splint is. Shin splints is really a catch-all term for pain anywhere located within the shin. In most cases, when symptoms develop on the front outside part of the shin, they're fairly spread out and come from muscle and fascia structures rather than bone. The primary muscle involved in this case is the tibialis anterior.
This muscle is important for slowing down the movement of the foot at foot contact in both running and walking. This muscle tends to get overworked when someone has a really long stride. They may have a slow cadence or a slow turnover, which results in a longer stride. The further the foot lands from the body, the more that muscle has to work to control that movement down. People that have a really prominent heel strike, that tibialis anterior muscle is going to have to work a little bit harder to control that movement.
When you get symptoms in this area of the shin, soft tissue work can be extremely helpful for reducing pain. This pin and stretch technique with your hands can be helpful. You can also do a similar technique using a lacrosse ball over a bench. Do these a couple minutes a night while you have your symptoms. Also consider doing them before you go on a run. Gait modifications to help with reducing overstriding tendencies can be helpful for reducing pain on the front of your shin when you're out on a run. To optimize results with these gait modifications, you should consider running in a shoe that has a lower heel to toe drop. One of the easiest ways to try to prevent overstriding is to work on slightly increasing your step rate. This is also called your running cadence. We know that having a cadence of less than 165 steps per minute is a known risk factor for developing a shin injury. To determine your running cadence, count how many times your right foot hits the ground in 30 seconds and multiply this by 4. If this is less than 170 steps per minute and you're struggling with shin pain, consider increasing your step rate by 5 to 8 steps per minute. Another thing that can be really helpful for reducing stress to the front of your shin is to think about the cue of lifting your heel just a little bit early on the back end of your stride. This will help you land closer to your body. The same effect can be achieved by thinking about growing tall or getting long through your torso. You can also try doing your runs on a trail instead of on the road or a treadmill. If you continue to have building stiffness and pain in the front of your shin when you run, you can try reducing stress to your shin muscles by switching to a run-walk interval, or by alternating periods of forward running with backwards running. Finally, you can better prepare the muscles on the front of your shin for the demands of running by actually strengthening them. When you do this exercise, lean against a wall and try to focus on lifting your foot and not just your toes. Improving recruitment of the hip flexors can also reinforce the pattern of lifting the heel early in gait to promote a closer landing to the body.